Now you know why we're looking into the mob. We just learned that the biggest mob threat in modern America may not come from America. Buddy and Mac are talking to someone who spent time on the front lines and has seen the terrifying new face of the mob firsthand.
Basically, organized crime in Mexico has grown exponentially beyond anything we ever saw with La Cosa Nostra or with the Russian mob in the United States. They have a presence in over 270 U.S. cities, and they supply 90%, possibly more, of the drugs that Americans consume every day.
Sylvia, what does the face of Mexican crime look like today?
It looks very similar to American organized crime, especially back in the 30s, and what we're seeing now. Right. Their origins were the same. You know, the way that they started in the business, the way that some of the gangsters behave, so many parallels to the Italian mafia, to the Russian mobsters. But, you know, even Al Capone knew he had his limits. The Mexican mobsters in Mexico, no limits whatsoever to what they can do. And the amount of money they have is through the roof compared to what the Italian mobsters had. I mean, the Italian mob, the Russian mob, never did the things that the Mexican mobsters are doing now. They have evolved well beyond organized crime.
It seems like American law enforcement has been pretty successful in fighting the Sicilian mafia here. Why are we not successful in fighting this new Mexican mafia?
Well, it's because we're not going after the money like we did with Al Capone. Most people think Al Capone was busted for bootlegging, when it turns out that he was busted by the IRS for tax evasion. So anti-money laundering laws in Mexico are very, very weak, and they have a disincentive to strengthen them because so much money coming from the illicit drug trade is getting injected into the Mexican economy. Some people say that it's up to 10 or 11% of the GDP. You know, one of the things that absolutely terrifies me is the amount of marijuana that's being grown in our national parks and our national forests. Talk about doing things under our noses.
In recent years, drug lords have become even better at concealing their illegal dealings by hiding them in your backyard. Mexican cartels have started growing millions of dollars of marijuana inside our U.S. national forests, just miles away from campers and hikers. It's a brilliant idea for a number of reasons: free land, instant privacy, and no way to legally trace ownership. The problems arise when a camper or park ranger stumbles onto the wrong trail. In an instant, their nature hike leads them to a militia protecting an entire narcotics factory, and the results are deadly.
Will legalization of marijuana, sort of eradicate that element of organized crime?
Yes, it would make a dent because of the drug income that the organized crime groups in Mexico have. Marijuana makes up the largest share, but they still have other sources of income to rely on. It's definitely not going to make them go away, similar to when Prohibition was lifted in 1933. Organized crime in Chicago and New York didn't go away. It wasn't as violent, it wasn't as pervasive, but they stuck around for quite a bit.
And how else are they making money besides drug dealing?
Their number 2 money-making venture is kidnapping and ransom. It used to be that the cartels only kidnapped rivals to punish them, to send a message, to demand their drug money back, but now they've seen it as a very lucrative source for ransom money. So not only are they kidnapping rivals, now they're kidnapping innocents.
And if their relatives don't pay the ransom?
Most likely they will never see their relative again.
I have to say, I had no idea that there was a widespread kidnapping ring in the United States of America run by Mexican mafia.
Several of them, particularly Los Zetas cartel, which is operating along the Gulf Coast of Mexico and beyond that.
Not only does the mob have a new face, but it has an entirely different set of rules. Old lines and borders have become meaningless, and everyone is now a potential victim. So if that sounds terrifying to you, just wait. You haven't even heard the scariest part yet. Our investigation into the mob has led us to look into Mexican cartels and the Los Zetas. What was formerly a minor threat south of the border has become a major threat right here on American soil. The Los Zetas might be the most frightening cartel out there. Earlier this year, a man and woman who posted critical comments about the cartel on a blog were found strung up and mutilated on a highway overpass. According to news reports, the Zetas started out as the military wing of the Gulf Cartel, and the two factions were major players in drug trafficking. But in 2010, the Zetas began to operate independently of the Gulf Cartel, and that started a turf war. Beyond the countless terrorist attacks and mass killings these guys are responsible for in Mexico, they are now supposedly expanding into the U.S. So remember the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929? Well, the Zetas took a page right out of Capone's playbook. Allegedly, 6 cartel members dressed as policemen riddled a 30-year-old American's home in Phoenix with over 100 bullets, killing him within seconds.
Because it sounds like a war. What you're describing sounds like a war. If they're killing 72 people at a time and they're finding mass graves.
Yeah. We see beheadings all the time in Mexico, but the first beheading related to the drug war happened in Chandler, Arizona.
That's a nice
about
town.
a year ago. It is.
It was.
We had a kidnapping a couple of years ago of a 6-year-old child in Las Vegas because his grandfather owed over $1 million to a Mexican drug cartel.
Okay, so there's the drug traffic, the kidnapping. Is there another area? I mean, they'll continue to evolve and get better and better, I assume.
They will. Well, extortion is a really, really big problem going on in Mexico right now, and they are making tons of money by just threatening business owners, asking for that weekly payment. And recently we had a big attack, one of the deadliest attacks in Mexico that happened in Monterrey, where a casino was burned to the ground in a matter of 3 minutes or less, and 52 people were killed in the process. It was allegedly by Los Zetas. They were claiming that they had been extorting the owner of the casino for a certain amount of money every week, and he didn't pay up, so that was their way of sending a message.
Where are they headed next?
One of their newer money makers involves recruiting forcibly, sometimes voluntarily, hackers to come in and help them with information theft, with fraud, with all sorts of cyber crimes.
Okay, this is bad. Gangsters with bandwidth.
And the amount of information they can obtain on targets, on rivals and citizens is scary, because now they can hack into public security systems, so pretty much the same systems that police officers use. So if they want to find a rival or find somebody who they want to target, they can do it now.
You're saying that they're way more sophisticated than they ever were before.
They're way more sophisticated, they're better trained, they're better funded, and they are more willing to take risks, and they operate with impunity.
This is more than I thought. I mean, you know, I didn't know it was this far-reaching.
It's a very, very scary situation.
We just learned that the mob has taken the leap into cyberspace. This is not Al Capone's mob. We didn't get messed with unless you mess with them. To become a victim of cybercrime, all you got to do is turn on your computer.